Hello everybody and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips, and I'll just start with a couple of announcements. We have a couple workshops coming up. One is tonight, March 5th. Lanny Milrath, who is Dr. McDougall's, one of his trainers, has actually written a new book about body shaping, and she talks about the importance of a plant-based diet and how that helps build your body and tone your body and that sort of thing. But in this book, she shares some great tips on how to get rid of those pesky problem areas that we all like to hide when we're getting dressed up to go out. So that's tonight, and then on March 7th, Introduction to Plant-Based Nutrition with Lori Denman, who will be talking about how to adopt a plant-based diet, why to do it, tips for getting started, etc. And then next week, March 12th, Ask Dr. Pam, we're going to talk about genes and health. Lots of mythology about this issue, so I'm kind of anxious to delve into it. And then, of course, you can ask anything you want during the remaining time after I give a brief overview of that topic. Also, just one other thing I wanted to mention is, even though winter semester is like halfway through, there are two classes that are starting in just a couple weeks. One is on autoimmune diseases, and the other is scope of practice issues for our practitioners. So if you're interested in any of this stuff, email me or call our office for more information. Okay, so now I have two articles I want to talk to you about today, and the first one is, starting with some good news. People are watching Forks Over Knives, and I still get emails and calls every day from people who've seen the movie. I ask when I give talks, how many of you have seen Forks Over Knives? Always, no matter what audience I'm addressing, some people have. The bad news, if you want to call it that, is that some healthcare professionals and their organizations are starting to get a little worried about this. I guess it's good news when you're starting to worry other people. Well, enough so that Alberta Health Services in Canada sent out an advisory to Canada's dietitians about forks over knives. The advisory states that dietitians have been asking a lot of questions about the film, which, quote, claims that chronic or degenerative diseases can be prevented or even reversed by following a vegan diet. Now, it's disappointing. There's no hearty endorsement of the film's message, and I guess it would be a stretch for people in the health community to think that diet's a great influence on health and to promote eating a better diet. Instead, the document states that the Dietitians of Canada and the the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, formerly the ADA, supports well-planned vegetarian diets, but of course the usual caution that these diets have to be well-planned because you might miss some important nutrients to be found in, and it actually says this in the article, skinless chicken, eggs, fish, and low-fat cuts of beef, and of course milk, we can't leave that out, or alternatives like skim milk also provides important nutrients too. So the advisory goes on to say that, quote, when consumed in combination with a varied diet, low-fat food of animal origin can be part of a healthy diet. In fact, Canada's Food Guide recommends the consumption of low-fat milk and alternatives as well as lean meat and alternatives. And so here were the guidelines, which they reprinted in the advisory just to make sure everybody knew what to do. First one was to drink skim 1% or 2% milk each day. God knows we can't forget the dairy. Select lower fat milk alternatives, which include yogurt, kefir, and cheese. Eat at least 2 Food Guide servings of fish each week. Select meat and alternatives prepared with little or no added fat or salt. Now, where are the non-animal food alternatives? Why does this document not mention soy milk instead of just low-fat milk and cheese? Where are the recommendations for meat alternatives like tempeh and tofu? And how about beans and grains as a source of protein? Well, the problem with Canada's dietitians and health organizations is they are just as influenced by money as all the groups in the United States are. I wish I could say it's strictly an American phenomenon. It's not. The website for the Canadian Foundation for Dietetic Research features sponsors like the Canadian dairy industry and Ontario Pork. Those are great sponsors to have. A document I found online called Get the Real Deal on Your Meal, which was produced by the Dietitians of Canada, was sponsored by the dairy industry, Lipton, General Mills, and Hellmann's Mayonnaise. So with sponsors like these, the Canadian dietitians can't embrace the message in Forks Over Knives. Their sponsors might get a little bit upset. So I think it's really time for dietitians to start speaking up and screaming and hollering about this and demanding that their governing bodies change their mind about sponsorship and change their policies about this. My fear is, and I have some good friends that are dietitians, we employ some here, and my fear is if dietitians don't do this, then people in other professions, other types of nutritionists, and the public are going to catch on and really render the profession sort of irrelevant. I'd hate to see that happen because there's some great dietitians out there. So anyway, message to dietitians: speak up, speak out, start putting pressure on your organization to do something about this. Okay, so on to the next thing. This won't surprise you, but according to data drawn from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, people who eat a plant-based diet weigh less than their meat-eating counterparts. For people who still think it's hard to get all the nutrients you need, this study also showed that the vegetarians consume 24% more fiber, 17% more calcium, and more magnesium, potassium, iron, thiamine, riboflavin, folate, and vitamins A, C, and E. Not surprisingly, the plant eaters also consume less fat, saturated fat, and cholesterol. An editorial that appeared in the same journal as this article stated that, quote, the benefits of following a plant-based diet can be valuable beyond weight loss goals. The editorial reported that plant eaters have lower cholesterol levels, lower blood pressure, and a lower risk of many diseases, including heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and hypertension. So with this, why are we having so much trouble convincing some people to adopt a plant-based diet? Well, I think the difficulty lies mostly with the population of people who are still healthy, or the group that we call the mildly sick. They're not yet critical. These people tend to think that they're somehow exempt from the almost inevitable results of consuming a diet rich in animal foods, and they just don't see their weight or health issues as a problem. And look around at the rest of the people you know and tell me this isn't a problem. But these issues are a problem. Bodies require maintenance, and I just invite people to think about the way you address everything else that you own and the way that you maintain those things. Now, let's take cars, for example. When the gas tank is just a little bit low, you pull into the gas station and you fill the tank. You don't wait till it's empty and the car's stopped. When the brakes start to make noise or you get a little squeaking, you take the car in and you get it fixed. You don't wait until the brakes don't work anymore. Your house is the same way. If there's a small leak in the roof, you call a roofer and get it fixed. You don't wait till the house falls down around you. But somehow people think that they can just abuse their bodies almost without limit, even though they get signs, the equivalent to the brake light and the small roof in the leak, or leak in the roof, that there's something going on. These are things like weight gain, poor skin color, fatigue, breathlessness, and high cholesterol. These are indicators that something is wrong. So we just have to get people to think of their bodies like cars, houses, and appliances. And actually, it should be easy. I think bodies are far more precious and indispensable than these other things. And my gosh, houses and cars and those kinds of things don't have much usefulness to people who are very sick, disabled, or dead. So we just have to keep talking about this till we get to the place where people who are healthy say, you know what, nothing's wrong with me yet, but what a blessing. I get to change my diet without any pressure, without any illness, and prevent bad things from happening. I always tell people that's the biggest gift that this has been to me, that I was fortunate enough to find out about this before serious things happened to me. And I know they would have, because my eating habits were terrible. So that's all for now. I'll be back to you on Thursday. As usual, feel free to pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it, and I'll talk to you Thursday.